Hey everyone, great to connect with you again today. Our worship services this Sunday continue to be outdoors at 8:30 and indoors and streaming at 11. The weather looks a bit sketchy Sunday morning, so if we need to be indoors at 8:30, we'll let you know as soon as possible. I'll be concluding the sermons from the Noah story, and this week we'll be focusing on the rainbow. In addition to the worship gatherings at 9:45, you're invited to join one of the Adult Discipleship Hour classes. And if you have children, our Kids Connect program offers classes for children of all ages. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, Monday night was awesome. The first home game of the year against a team that's gotten the better of the Bills for a number of years. The Bills looked great in their first game on the road against the Rams, and they were clicking on all cylinders. But as wonderful as that was, there's always this fear that maybe it won't happen again. Some prognosticators were wondering if the Bills would be too hyped, too pumped up, too excited playing before this packed house in their first home game, that they might actually perform poorly. But that didn't happen. They were sharp, they were on it, so much so that for all intents and purposes, the game was over midway through the third quarter. So after the game, Coach McDermott went into the locker room, congratulated his players, and said, "Celebrate tonight, enjoy the win. Tomorrow, we start preparing for the Dolphins." Now, those words didn't surprise me. It's common post-game coach speak. We're going to enjoy this win tonight, but tomorrow we're back to work preparing for the next game. And I understand what the coach is saying, completely agree with it. But I can't help but wonder if sometimes the players, and perhaps even the coaches themselves, want to celebrate longer. Why can't we bask in this victory for 2 or 3 more days? Why can't we just relax, let everything go, and remind ourselves how successful we've been, how great we are? Of course they can't, because another game is coming, and forgetting that is a certain recipe for disaster and disappointment. I think the same idea is important for our discipleship journey with Jesus. We experience a spiritual breakthrough. We experience the high of a spiritual victory. We feel the exhilaration of getting it right and seeing the fruit that comes from getting it right. And the natural inclination is to bask in the victory, to enjoy the win, to celebrate the success. And we should. We need to acknowledge our victories as disciples. It's important to acknowledge what God has done and to celebrate good choices, right responses, and spiritual highs. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, to do otherwise would be a sign of ingratitude. I suppose Coach McDermott could have gotten into the locker room with a sad face and a stern countenance and yelled at the guys. "What are you celebrating for? What are you doing? Don't you have another game in 6 days? What's wrong with you guys?" And if he had reacted this way, he would have crushed the spirit and the joy of this team who had just played their hearts out and sacrificed their bodies and did it kind of for him. And after a while, I suspect most of the players, if that kept happening, would be looking for another place, another team to play on. In the same way, our celebration, our joy, is a means of expressing gratitude to God, acknowledging His goodness, His grace, His help. But if we forget that life keeps going, that temptations keep coming, that opposition keeps pushing us, we will be off our guard and will find ourselves in a position of disappointment and disaster. There's this moment in Mark 8, which Peter declares that Jesus is the Messiah. It's probably the highest moment of spiritual understanding that we see in Peter and the disciples through their years of walking with Jesus. It's a glorious moment of revelation and discernment. And then Mark tells us immediately following, Jesus begins to explain that he's going to be arrested, persecuted, and killed. And even though Jesus also says that he will rise from the dead, Peter rebukes Jesus for saying such things. And Jesus, turning to Peter, rebukes him and says, "Get behind me, Satan." It doesn't take long for Peter's celebration and success to turn into an embarrassment of failure. And the reality is life is hard. The evil one is continually after us. So when we experience the joy of success and the excitement of getting it right and the exhilaration of sensing that God is pleased, we should not disregard the blessing of those moments. Embrace them, hold on to them, put them in our memory bank, give thanks. And remember that we never stop needing Jesus. We celebrate because He's helped us. We live in ongoing dependence on Him because He is our only hope. Because it's only in His grace and mercy that we find not only joy in the victories, but also strength and hope in the struggles. Father, thank you for every victory. Help us to always be grateful. And even in our joy, may we keep our hearts turned to you every moment, every day. Amen. Thanks again for joining me. Have a wonderful day.